Today I want to talk about a relatively little known chemical in our body called spermidine. And spermidine was initially discovered in 1678, and something similar was discovered in the brain in 1885 that they called neuridine. Both of those chemicals, though, were exactly the same thing, and so they reverted to the initial name, which was spermidine, which was the one given to it in 1876. So I'm going to talk about what it is, what it does in our body, and where to find it. So what it is a chemical that helps with autophagy, and autophagy is just like taking out the trash, cleaning out the old dead cells in the body to make room for the new things. And so it is one of the things associated with being able to live longer. And this particular chemical, spermidine, has been shown in the lab in being able to increase the lifespan of animals. So spermidine has been shown in recent studies to increase the lifespan of not only some of the smaller organisms like worms and rodents, but even in humans. And so what it really does in the body is it helps with autophagy, and that's why they think it's helping in the area of heart disease, because what we see in the area of heart disease is fewer strokes and heart attacks, less dementia, all of which would be related to clearing out the blood vessels of old dead cells and, revamping the blood vessels. But it's also really helpful in controlling blood pressure and blood sugar. So those are really important things. One of the interesting things, though, is that because it is produced in our body in hair follicles, even a teaspoon a day has been shown to be able to decrease hair loss. And so if you have somebody that is noticing that they're shedding a lot of hair all the time, it will actually decrease that process. And lastly, one other area that spermidine really helps with is immune function. So as we get older, our immune system tends to age just like the rest of us and doesn't work as effectively. So you'll have people who develop inflammation or inability to fight diseases as well. And spermidine can decrease the aging process of the immune system. So spermidine slows the aging of the immune system. So it is found in the body because we make much higher amounts when we're in our 20s than when we're in our 50s on up. Because by the time you're 50, you're making less than half of what you made of spermidine when you were in your 20s. The good news is that we can also get it in two other ways. One is to take it in foods, and the third way we get it is to take in foods that have the fiber that feed the bacteria that make it in our body. Those three ways. I want to show you some of the foods that are highest in spermidine content. If you just think of it this way, though, it's plant foods are going to be primarily the highest. You can get it from some animal products, and I'm going to mention what some of those are. And if you can't actually get enough in your diet, then make sure you're at least getting enough of the foods that have fiber, because they feed the bacteria that make it for our body. So those three ways. The highest dose of spermidine that you can get for the least expense and the smallest amount of a product is from wheat germ. And wheat germ is interesting because it takes only about a teaspoon a day to make a difference with hair loss. It was not one of the ones that Dr. Greger first talked about, although this is discussed extensively in his book, How Not to Age. But it wasn't one of those he first talked about having on the Daily Dozen. But he has since revised that a little bit to suggest that we have a tablespoon and a half a day of flax and a tablespoon and a half a day of wheat germ to make up for some of the amounts that we don't get in our diet. It is recommended that we get 25 grams a day for women and 30 grams a day for men. And in the United States, we're getting about 8 grams a day. So we're way low in the amount of spermidine that we need. So as I said, the highest concentration you can probably just get in a tablespoon and a half a day of wheat germ, but you can get it in any kind of beans. And I kind of put this one up. This is three beans in this organic bean product. But just be thinking anything that's a bean or a lentil. So any kind of soy product, especially fermented soy, because in the fermented soy like tempeh, you are actually getting a higher concentration because the bacteria that are used for this fermentation in tempeh are also making spermidine. This is not necessarily true in fermented products like sauerkraut or yogurt. They don't have the bacteria that produce this, but tempeh does. And then, it could be peas that you get it from. It could be lentils, any kind of bean. You're going to get some significant amounts to be able to make up some of that spermidine that you're not making in your body. And you're also going to be feeding the bacteria that produce the spermidine with the fiber in the beans and lentils. So that's a really good way to do it. Grains will do the same thing, and so will things like corn. That's a really good one to increase spermidine in your body. Other things that you can get it from would be things like mushrooms, spices like dill. You get it from apples. You can get some from potatoes. Lettuce is a surprising one. So, take a look at his book, How Not to Age. There's a whole section on spermidine. It's very interesting. It's not something that was well known to me and probably not to a lot of the population. So a really nice way to get a really good anti-aging chemical in your body. If you have kidney disease or cancer, what we really want to do is not necessarily go overboard with spermidine, because potentially it can help maintain a cancer or potentially worsen kidney disease. So be careful of that. And otherwise, go out there and have a great day.